Even the country's oldest Latino civil rights group came out against it, yet AOC keeps defending it, saying gender is fluid, language is fluid. Yes, and Latino voters are fluid. Intersectionality and the importance of shutting the fuck up about it. And, undouching your face, man beards from Ted Cruz to J.D. Vance.
All right, buckle up, because today we're talking about Bill Maher absolutely lighting the Democrats on fire, metaphorically, of course. Honestly, the roast was so brutal you could almost smell the smoke. It's one of those rare political moments where comedy and truth seem to join forces, take a victory lap, and leave the Democratic National Committee wondering what just happened. Here's the setup. Democrats have a big problem. They're losing support from American men, especially working-class voters. And instead of sitting down with these voters and asking, hey, what's going on? How can we earn your trust back? They threw a fancy party at the Ritz-Carlton Half Moon Bay, just south of San Francisco, complete with mini lobster rolls, heirloom tomato carpaccio, and seared sea bass. Because apparently nothing says we understand your struggles quite like gourmet seafood in a ballroom.
To your point, I want to get to something very important. How many know what SAM stands for? It's a new phrase. It stands for Speaking with American Men, SAM. This is the new movement by the Democratic Party. They lost the men vote a lot last time. So they had a meeting up at the Ritz-Carlton at Half Moon Bay, south of San Francisco. I'm not making this up, where they served mini lobster rolls and had heirloom tomato carpaccio and seared sea bass in their conclave to decide how to win back the American man.
Seriously, you can't make this up. And Maher wasn't about to let them off the hook. He tore into the whole charade, pointing out the obvious disconnect. You're trying to win back guys who drink Miller Lite and fix their own truck transmissions, but your strategy meeting looks like it's sponsored by Gwyneth Paltrow's lifestyle blog. It's like hosting a firefighter appreciation dinner, only making it black tie and serving sushi. Your audience might be polite, but deep down they're probably wondering, who are these people? The Democratic National Committee didn't just gather for lobster and small talk, they even gave the meeting an official name, SAM, which stands for Speaking with American Men. Let's be honest, that already sounds like the title of a painfully awkward HR seminar. And then there were the workshops, which is where things really get interesting. One was literally called,
Now, look.
It's because we used to have conferences at Harvard to figure out what the working class needs, and so now we're moving west.
You got to own who you are. I get it. These are the mini lobster roll people. But they had this symposium, and we got a hold of what was that. This is Speaking with American Men. This is the real thing that they're doing, and they have these seminars. Would you like to hear what was? Okay. These are ways that they want to. Seminars that they had to try to win back the typical American male, like how to keep your liberal base while putting guns on your Christmas card. That was one that they wanted to.
Picture this, some out-of-touch political consultant walks up to a voter and says, hey man, we know you're struggling with gas prices, inflation, and maybe even job security, but have you tried this new plant-based pea protein? It's amazing for gains. Yeah, because nothing wins elections quite like unsolicited gym advice. And they didn't stop there. They apparently even had a segment on Bud Light etiquette, when to drink it and when to shoot it, which, if you've been paying attention over the past 2 years, is an unintentionally hilarious choice given Bud Light's own PR troubles and cultural backlash. At this point, it feels like they're not just missing the point, they're accidentally parodying themselves.
Best protein powder for a clean bulk and other dude conversation starters. Bud Light etiquette, when to drink it, when to shoot it.
Maher's point here is deadly serious. The Democrats aren't just missing the mark, they've left the firing range entirely. Instead of focusing on issues like the economy, inflation, or America's standing in the world, they're busy workshopping fake guy talk to win over voters they clearly don't understand. As a result, The whole thing comes across less like genuine outreach and more like a political influencer desperately trying to go viral on TikTok. Then there's the fishing bit. Yes, fishing. It was reportedly described as one of those bizarre hobbies working-class men enjoy instead of pickleball. Think about that for a second. If your strategy session includes mocking the hobbies of the very people you're trying to connect with, you might need to start over. That's like running a campaign ad that says, "Vote for me," even though I think all your interests are ridiculous.
Fishing, the bizarre hobby working class men enjoy instead of pickleball. The only scene that you're obsessed with in Titanic, hint, it has tits.
And if you thought it couldn't get any worse, Maher brought up yet another male voter reconnection idea, this time referencing Titanic, specifically the nude scene. Because apparently the new Democratic National Committee Voter Strategy Manual is trying to blend politics with Maxim magazine. If your plan to win back voters relies on crude jokes instead of actual policy, you're not running a serious campaign, you're hosting open mic night at the world's saddest comedy club. But Maher didn't stop at mocking what he saw as a PR disaster. He focused on what he argued is the bigger issue, the left's fixation on identity politics, virtue signaling, and social media-approved activism while neglecting the kitchen table concerns most people actually care about: inflation, jobs, public safety, and the kind of issues elections are usually decided on. Then came the point about Joe Rogan. Maher noted that Rogan, once embraced by many on the left as a relatable cultural figure, has largely distanced himself, arguing that even he no longer recognizes what parts of the modern left have become.
Bruce Lee versus Bigfoot, mythical fight scenarios to man up your Joe Rogan appearance.
He argued that parts of the modern left have become a hyper-woke, self-parodying movement in which masculinity is often treated as something inherently suspect, and where saying anything even slightly outside the approved script can lead to immediate backlash or social excommunication. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan is out there hunting, working out, and having the kind of candid, unfiltered conversations that millions of people clearly appreciate. And here's the bigger point: this isn't just about men. It's about voters in general who are tired of feeling condescended to, labeled, or lectured about what their priorities should be.
Intersectionality and the importance of shutting the fuck up about it. And, undouching your face, man beards from Ted Cruz to J.D. Vance.
Maher's roast is really a warning. You can't keep talking at people instead of with them and expect them to stick around. He illustrated this perfectly with the story of a heavily Latino congressional district on the Texas border. For decades, it was reliably Democratic. Last year, it flipped Republican. Why? The losing campaign's own manager admitted, "We gave up a reliably Democratic congressional seat for no reason at all." But Maher explained the real reason: those voters stopped seeing the Democrats as their advocates. They wanted someone to represent them, not just migrants crossing the border.
Last week, an 85% Latino congressional district on the border with Mexico, which had always voted heavily Democratic, flipped to the red team, and the campaign manager for the losing Democrat said, "We gave up a reliably Democratic congressional seat for no reason at all. We deserve to know why." Well, aside from your terrible attitude, I'm going to tell you why. Because these voters stopped seeing your candidate as their lawyer. That's why. Their message to you was, "I'm an American now. I'm here. Be my lawyer, not the lawyer for the migrants showing up in my backyard."
This is where it gets raw. Maher basically says, if your political priority is advocating for non-citizens while ignoring the struggles of citizens who live in your district, don't be surprised when they dump you. And he argues that when fentanyl overdoses are killing thousands of Americans each year, yet you seem more fired up about social media arguments over pronouns than addressing that crisis, people notice, and they don't forget. Speaking of pronouns, he also talked about the Latinx debate, a term that originated in academic circles and on social media but that many Latino people don't use or identify with. polls have shown repeatedly that a large majority of Latinos don't connect with it, and some even find it offensive. Maher criticized Democrats for embracing it as though it were a major cultural breakthrough, and he pointed out that even one of the country's oldest Latino civil rights organizations has spoken out against the term.
Every month I see a new poll reporting how much Latinos despise the woke term Latinx. It's about as popular with them as a reboot of Speedy Gonzales.
And yet, you still have people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez defending it with lines like, "Gender is fluid, language is fluid." Sure, language evolves, but voters evolve too, and lately, they've been evolving right out of the Democratic tent. And here's where things got personal. Maher touched on a sentiment floating around that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Latina identity feels, to many, like a political costume she put on when it became convenient. Whether that's fair or not, perception matters in politics. If voters think you're performing a persona instead of living it, they'll turn on you. Authenticity isn't optional anymore, it's the currency of credibility. By the end of Maher's takedown, the message was crystal clear. The Democrats' old playbook, appealing to niche activist causes, rebranding themselves with trendy language, and assuming voters will simply fall in line, doesn't work anymore.